Anybody have any interesting dreams over the weekend? I've noticed that there's been a lot of dreaming going on. A lot of people are messaging me going, what does this mean? Because what the hell? People have been having some crazy dreams the last few days. Michelle says, Lara, you have so many charms on your necklace. Every time I go to France and come back with more. I do. I have a lot of them right now. I have one for Sarah. I have one for my Triskelion. This one is the Mary Magdalene symbol, and then I have the fleur de lis, and then I have an ankh, and then I have a Cathar cross, and then I got this really cool one the other day. You can't really tell, but it's fleur de lis lilies and a cross with a Moldavite in the middle. So I did. I got some more bling while I was in France. Thank you, Michelle. I need to get like a spacer so they get spaced out better. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know. You know what's funny is I used to only wear crystals because I'm like, what is, there's, I need some crystals in there to make it so it actually has an effect. I didn't realize that symbols themselves can be very powerful. In fact, symbols can be even more powerful than crystals, depending on how much love and power, I guess, you give behind your own symbols and how much belief and strength that you have in regards to these symbols. Like it's a family crest, for example, that would be something that would give you extra protection. Chantal says, Laura, I dreamt about you last night. You know what's funny? Everybody is dreaming about me this week. It's the weirdest thing. I've had probably 20 people tell me I've been in their dreams this week. I swear to God, I'm not that busy. I don't think it was me per se. But that's really funny. You were making beads on the seashore with bioluminescent. You did a forward roll into a pumpkin and burst. It was a passion fruit inside. Chantal always has the most interesting dreams. What was that one last time? It was about a crab and how I was going to marry a crab. You guys, my stepfather, I went and had dinner with them last night. He's like, you were in my dreams. And I said, yeah. I like, in what context? And he goes, I was showing you I could fly and I was doing this. I was like, look, he was having a lucid dream. I'm like, that was a lucid dream, just for the record. Like, if you have a dream where you're flying or swimming through the air right there, that is that is a lucid dream. So yes, I imagine a lot of people are having very interesting, especially lucid dreams over the past couple weeks that we've had some crazy energies coming through. Oh, Margaret said she had a dream that me and Dolores came to her house to do a QHHT session. Oh, I love that. You never know what you get up to in the astral. That's the thing. Jessica's had dreams as well. Isn't it interesting? I wonder what's keeping us so busy in the astral this week. Lots of astral traveling going on. Ariana says, is Aiden happy to have you back? Yes, he does like this running head start bull tackle thing that he does, where he basically does a charge on me. Oh, yeah, he's been doing that a lot since I got back. So it's hard to go away when you have a kid that really wants to go everywhere with you, but he loves school. So that's the best thing about he likes going to school every day. And that math is his favorite class. In fact, he gets really excited about math every day. I'm like, whose child are you? Oh, so cute. Michelle says, Mary Jane has been taking my dreams. You know what's funny? Those of you who have been watching my podcast for quite a while now, you know that I have no qualms about admitting that I love cannabis. This has been one of my favorite things since I was probably about 17 years old, and I'm 40 now. So just to give it some perspective, it is one of my only vice, I must say. But funnily enough, I did take a mini hiatus, not too much. I was still partaking when I was in France, thanks to some beloved friends who hooked me up. But I have noticed that when I got home, it was really weird. So on Friday, and this is a funny story. On Friday, I had one little tiny, teeny little puff just to kind of take the edge off of things. And then about 2 minutes later, I had a really loud ringing in my ears to the point where I was like, oh my God. Like I couldn't even barely like see. It was such a loud ringing. And the next thing you know, I felt really like ungrounded and weird. And I said something to a friend of mine. I was like, there's something going on here. And they said, well, Lord Shiva is with you. And I was like, oh, well, that explains why my head is ringing like a gong right now. So he did something very nice for me to try and boost my my frequency. You guys, I don't know what happened, but within 30 minutes, I felt so drunk. I actually ended up getting sick. And for some reason, every time I have smoked since then, I have felt that extreme, ungrounded, weird feeling. Like I asked the guides about it. I'm like, how come cannabis is hitting me so hard right now? Like I've gone on 3-month hiatuses and it wasn't like this. They said my frequency is moving so much higher, and because I was in France and my frequency got boosted so drastically when I was in France, that now, for those of you who are unaware, whenever you smoke cannabis, it actually changes your vibrational frequency. Anytime you imbibe anything, it's going to affect your frequency, right? So cannabis has a certain frequency. And if you're feeling sick, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling, just really down in the dumps, and your frequency is down here and the cannabis frequency is up here, you're going to smoke and it's going to bring you up to the frequency to meet that of the plant. Does that make sense? Right? But if the plant is vibrating like here and your frequency is up here, every time you smoke, it's actually going to lower your frequency to match that of the plant. Right? So the guides explained, like, my frequency is so high that every time I smoke, I experience a drop in vibration now. And I can feel it. Like, I can actually feel it now because my vibration has gone up so high over the last 2 weeks or so because I'm hanging out with like-minded people. We're doing a whole bunch of spiritual exercises. We're going to very sacred places that have a very high vibration. I mean, there's so much that we were doing to boost our frequency. And then Lord Shiva comes in and goes, dong, like it changes my frequency again. And holy shit, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. So now I'm kind of like looking at it like, I don't know if I need it right now. So I've only been partaking right before bed to help me go to sleep. But to be honest, like, I don't even know if I'm going to continue to that degree. It's just hit me way harder than it normally has. And that's why I asked the guides, like, what is going on? And that's what they explained. My frequency is up here and the plant is now down here. So whenever I smoke, it's like boof, right? And whenever you have a drastic change in frequency, it doesn't matter if you are, like, let's say, for example, you walk into a building, right? Like, I don't know, a courthouse or something that would have a low vibration. Your vibration is normally high. You step into an environment with a low frequency, and that environment is going to affect your vibration. So if you walk into a space and you feel nauseous immediately, that's because your vibration took a plummet. Or at least I should say, if it does this, any form of shooting really fast in vibration or going really low in vibration quickly will produce that nausea feeling. And so this is another reason why, if you ever imbibe mushrooms, which is another one of my favorite things, mushies will have the same effect where it will increase your frequency very drastically, very quickly. And that's what gives you that feeling whenever you enjoy the mushrooms. So your frequency, when it starts doing this, it's more obvious, right? That you're starting to notice these things. Because like I said, you get like headaches, you can feel ungrounded, you can feel nauseous. There's all kinds of stuff like that. So anyway, I've been trying to be more aware of how certain things affect my vibration because, I mean, it's very challenging to get your vibration up higher enough. I've been chatting with some of the guides the last few days about this because some of us have been practicing channeling. Mr. Bradley has done an amazing job with his channeling, and he's doing everything right. Not only is he, putting a lot of effort and consistency into his practice, but he's taking really good care of his body. So Diane says it's your time to quit. I'm sorry to say. It might be. It might be just my time to switch to something much different. I don't know. But to be honest, like you have to listen to your body and what it tells you. So I have noticed the last few weeks that certain things affect my frequency like crazy. So I've been trying to kind of limit that. Just one example is wheat. If you guys have noticed, like eating wheat sometimes will really mess with your vibration, especially with your stomach as well, because if your body is being affected by something that you're imbibing, it's going to mess with your frequency. So if those of you have had a few conversations, I imagine, about this, about the whole vegan thing and whether or not it's good to be a vegan because, you know, animals and the way that you imbibe that food will also affect your frequency. So Dolores and many other people have talked about this quite a lot because this is a very common question for people. You know, is it better to avoid even meat when you're working on building up your frequency? The guides have always said that the most important thing is the way that your food is treated before you consume it. So if you were eating abused carrots that have traveled across the entire planet and they've been heavily processed, they're not going to be healthy for you. The same way that, you know, a bag of potato chips isn't going to be very healthy for you. The frequency of that food is going to affect your frequency. So this is one of the reasons why the guides are always saying, as long as you're getting it locally, as long as you're getting something that has been, you know, untainted by all the spraying and the chemicals and all the shit that goes in there, because that's also going to affect you. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we are kind of relearning and we're trying to come to terms with, especially in regards to the things that we consume. So, yes, exactly, Charisse. Charisse is getting to my point exactly. She's reading my mind. When in doubt, bless your food. You should be blessing everything that you put between these lips. Everything. Okay? All your food, all your drink, all your treats, everything needs to be blessed. And I'm even in regards to cannabis. Every time you smoke, if you take a little nugget, hold it in your hand, imbue it with positive energy, say this will only serve me to my highest good, and truly believe that what you are, you know, that you are putting your positive energy into what you're about to consume. So, for example, if you're drinking tea, this is my herbal tea I've been drinking. You hold the herbal tea in your hand, you hold your hand over it even, and you just say, I truly believe that everything serves me to my highest good. This drink will only serve me to my highest good. It will nourish my body. It will give me the sustenance that I need and will do me no harm. If you do that with everything that you consume, you'd be surprised how much this will actually benefit you in the long term. So even if it's something like, let's say, a naughty treat that you shouldn't be having, you can still bless it and it won't be anywhere near as bad as it originally was. Your belief has a lot of power. So just be aware that, you know, exactly, Charisse. Please cleanse and clear this. May it serve me only to my highest good. Reiki your water, Reiki your makeup before you put it on. You can Reiki absolutely anything. You can Reiki your lotion, whatever. Just everything that touches you, everything that goes into your body should be at least blessed before you consume it. See, there's a lot of you guys who are giving some stuff up, which is really good right now. I have actually switched to, I'm doing keto right now because I spoiled myself a little bit too much in France with all the lovely patisseries and things. So to be honest, like my body feels really sluggish. Like even though most of what we eat over there is probably organic, it's the sugar, it's the wheat, it's the dairy. All of these things are very dense and heavy on the human body. So that is why I'm trying to release all of those things. And it's very challenging. But my mom lost 70 pounds on keto. So it's not even just about losing weight. It's also about just making sure that your body isn't partaking in things that are so dense and so unhealthy and so difficult to be processed too. Wheat, for example. So you can do all kinds of clever things in regards to keto. You don't have to go the whole meat route. You can do a very heavy veggie keto, which is what I'm going to be doing. So it's very challenging sometimes at first, especially in the first few days, because your body is switching over into, burning ketones and it's used to burning carbohydrates. So when you completely cut out the carbohydrates, your body gets a chance to kind of reboot itself. So this is another reason why many people also do it, is for like people who are pre-diabetic, people who are really struggling with their blood pressure. My mom was on blood pressure medication, and then she did keto for a few months, and then her blood pressure, she ended up feeling like really lightheaded, and we found out she didn't need the blood pressure medication. Keto actually rid her of the need for it, funnily enough. Anyway, it's just one of those things that if you start listening to your body more, you're aware of what it needs. And if you start listening to it, you start to notice that certain things will be more detrimental than you thought they were. And that's exactly how I feel. Like, even about wheat, like I've been eating all organic stuff and I still feel like shit afterward if it's wheat. So that's another reason why I'm completely cutting out wheat. You know, it's funny. In South Africa, we have something called kamut, which is pretty easy to find. Kamut, kamut. And that never affected me. So I don't think it's just the spraying of the glyphosate and all the other crap that they put on wheat these days. I think it's also in regards to the makeup of the wheat itself. So ancient grain wheats tend to be a lot easier on the stomach for some reason. What are you eating on keto? I usually try my best to just eat mostly greens. I eat a lot of greens. I do still eat like blueberries and raspberries. That's what's in my herbal tea that I make. It's blueberries and raspberries. You can still have that. You can't eat things like apples and oranges and things because they've got more of a sugar content, but you can still eat berries and stuff. Eat a lot of nuts. You can also, if you're somebody like me who loves potato chips, which is something, potatoes are my vice in regards to food. They're the one thing that it's hardest for me to keep up to quit is potatoes. So kale chips work really well for me. You just take some chopped up kale, throw a little bit of olive oil on it with some salt, pepper, and garlic, and then roast them in the oven, and you get kale chips. And that tends to help with the cravings. My biggest problem, what's funny, is fasting. I can fast most of the day. Like, I don't even miss food for most of the day because I'm too busy. But then like 5, 6 o'clock, I'll eat 3 meals between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's the one thing I need to stop, is the late night snacking. But for that, I usually eat some kind of like nuts or some kind of salty treat for that. Bradley says there's eggs in cake, which means it's protein. Bradley, you don't even... Bradley's ironically the person who eats the more cake and cookies than anybody else, and yet he is in better shape than pretty much everybody I know. So Bradley, you're an alien. You don't count. Diane says potatoes are like sugar for me. Exactly. I'm in the same boat. Smoking makes you want to snack more. That is also very true. I just like salty treats at night. I don't know why. So this is why the kale chips are helping a little bit in regards to that. See, I'm glad some of you guys are relating to what I'm going through right now. So I'm literally just going off on a random tangent, though. You guys have anything you want to discuss today? Anything you guys want to know about? Other than blessing your food and all of these things? Oh, I did have an interesting case yesterday that I can discuss. I got to hang out with Yeshua yesterday. Yeshua hung out with me for most of the day, which was really lovely. And as we were talking about earlier about frequency, and I felt pretty nauseous at first. I'm like, why do I feel so nauseous? And then I asked one of the mediums, and they're like, well, it could be because Yeshua is standing right next to you. And I was like, oh, that'll do it. And then as soon as I said that, he must have backed up because the nausea it started to get better. And I was like, oh, okay. So I asked why he was hanging out with me, and he was my extra security detail, considering the clearing that we did yesterday. So, a couple of you guys have been asking me to check on somebody. There's a particular lost soul that we were concerned about. She is one of the people from the videos that you guys have seen. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to draw too much attention to the case, especially because there's always beasties listening. And I'm not trying to get too much credit. Honestly, like this is a kind of a messed up situation, considering like this happened months ago, but people only really knew about what happened to her because the video footage had been released. So the three of us, Bradley, Kat, and Carolyn and I, we sat down, I should say the four of us, the three mediums sat down yesterday to kind of back each other up as we tuned in to check her. She was not crossed over. She was frozen in a block of ice in the astral, like completely frozen. Which was very strange in the first place. I don't think we've even seen anything like that. Yes, Chantal. We check her, and of course, there's a huge Draco officer on her. We removed it, sent it to source where it belonged. And there were others because, of course, they're cowards, and there's never just one. There's usually three or more, and there were. So we cleared them, and we call forward loved ones for her. And you know what's crazy about this? I'm one of those people who's very curious about the motives behind something like this. So I wanted to know, like, was this part of her plan? Did she plan to die in such a horrific way? No, she did not. That was not her plan. That was an entity jumping in and circumventing her plan. So I asked why she was targeted. And I mean, if you saw, she was minding her own business. Like she was doing absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I don't think she was even aware of, you know what I mean, the danger that she was in because she was just traveling home. We found out that she's angelic. There are some very rare occasions where angelics will choose to incarnate and take a human body. And she is one of those people. So she was literally an angel in human form. The guide said that every time she walked into a space, she changed the frequency of everyone in that space and the space itself. So she was a bright light that activated other bright lights around her. And the entities didn't like that. So they used somebody that they had what we call a perfect possession. So it's almost to the point of being body snatched. Like, and yes, Chantal says, did you check him too? Of course we did. So we checked him too. He had 38 dark contracts. And I said something to the guides. I'm like, how the hell can you even have 38 dark contracts? And they said, well, actually, he kind of like a dementia patient. And somebody that comes in and takes their hand and forces them to sign a last will and testament, even though they're on another planet mentally. It's kind of like that. It was the most dark contracts I've ever found on somebody. He had no personal autonomy whatsoever. He couldn't have stopped himself no matter how badly he wanted to. He is a victim too. He is a victim of possession. He had 14 Lizzies on him, which I didn't even think was possible. I don't even know like how the hell something can occupy that space. But he had 14 Lizzies on him. He had 10 demonics. And I mean, for them to call him schizophrenic is an understatement. If you guys have ever seen the movie Split, it's kind of like that. He wasn't just locked in the bathroom of his own mind. He didn't even know who he has no concept of understanding who he is anymore. So I asked about his records. I asked about his past lives. And the craziest thing about all this is something I have to really kick myself for because you guys have even seen my posts about this. Remember the theory that David Icke discussed? The theory that if you enter the light, you don't go to heaven. That was weird. My Siri just activated somehow. He entered the light in his last incarnation, but he didn't go to the high astral. He didn't go to the place that we normally go when we have an opportunity to plan our next incarnation. And I asked the guides about this, and they said, well, as above, so below. There are places that are very low vibrational, where you can also get sent to, where somebody else plans your next incarnation for you. So he did not get to cross over properly. He did not get to go to the healing place. I don't know how many incarnations he's gone without being able to go to the healing place, but he was a shell of himself. He has had everything. The guides told me everything that you could possibly do to a human to terrorize them and to torture them, he has experienced it. Everything. Not just in previous incarnations, but even in this incarnation. They used somebody who was basically a puppet, a marionette on a string that they use for their own torture and enjoyment. So I asked the guides, how did he end up going to the light and ending up in such a dark place? Because this is something that I've only ever discovered, I think, twice in my cases, in the 5,000 plus clearings that I have done, I should say that we have done as a team together. Have we discovered something like this? So I asked about it, and they said it was the dark contracts. It was his vibration. You can enter the light, but if your vibration is really dense, if you have 38 dark contracts on you, with I don't know how many dark spells and curses and vows. He had something like 8 vows. So he didn't cross over properly. He ended up going to the entities. It was like they owned him, like he was an asset of theirs. So even though he crossed over to the light, he didn't go to the right place, so to speak. So I have heard, like I said, once, maybe twice more, other than this circumstance, where people have gone into what we call the soul trap. And this is why so many people, and I must admit, I called bullshit on David Icke years ago. In fact, I still remember some of the posts that I put up on Dolores Cannon saying there's no such thing as a soul trap. It's all bullshit. Well, fuck. I was wrong. And there are some people that end up in that situation. So I want you guys to know that is extremely rare, that as long as you don't have severe dark contracts, as long as you didn't, do heinous things in your lifetime, chances are this isn't something that you need to be concerned about. But if you are somebody who has lived a tortured existence their whole life, where you have suffered your entire life, where you have caused suffering to other people, and you feel that there is guilt and, that you need to make amends through your own suffering. He had so many vows of suffering, vows of silence. I mean, this poor guy, like, I realized what he did was so heinous and awful that he's probably going to end up given the capital punishment. But to know that he is equally as much of a victim is so unsettling. And the fact that there are Dracos and other very powerful beings that exist on this planet that can hijack your plan and even choose your next incarnation and plan it for you is pretty fucked up. I mean, it's rare, and I don't think absolutely any of you have to be concerned about this unless you're some kind of a serial killer. I don't think you have to be concerned about this. So I'm not trying to spread this knowledge for any reason whatsoever to imbibe fear into people, because this is not something that I feel people need to be concerned about, especially If you are spiritually awakened and aware and you're getting clearings and you are living in your highest light, you know what I mean? You're following your highest timeline. This is not something you would ever have to be concerned about. But if you're somebody who has lived a tortured experience this whole lifetime, if you are somebody who is perpetuating a cycle of abuse and torture and just pure mayhem in every one of your lifetimes, chances are entities can control more than we think. So we did everything we could to give this man a clean slate. We cleared everything we possibly could for him. And I'm hoping that his next incarnation will give him more opportunities to heal. And it's just awful that so many of us are unaware of the pitfalls that can occur in between our lifetimes. Chantal says, Lara, I've got a new friend on here. Can you please talk about how we can accidentally enter into contracts and vows now? Sure, Chantal. So nice to have your new friend with us, by the way. Welcome to this wonderful community. So we have found that when you say things with deep emotion and intention attached to the things that you say, it's very easy to manifest contracts and vows for yourself. So just to give you some examples of the vows I'm talking about, I actually have a list of them. A vow of obedience is one that we have found. This was often taken by nuns and priests in a form of submission. There are vows of revenge where you hate someone or something so much that you actually end up making a vow of that you will take your revenge against this person. That will instantly create karma. So that way you are going to be meeting the same person again in your next incarnation, and you'll be thrust into the similar situation where you're going to be challenged yet again under certain circumstances. And that is an opportunity for you to either release the vow or continue perpetuating the violence against each other. There are vows of heartbreak where, you end up so heartbroken that you swear you'll never love anyone ever again. And then you end up having a hard time finding a mate. In further down many lifetimes, you end up, being unable to find that partner that you would seek, because you made that vow. Vows of poverty is one of the most common. People made vows of poverty all the time. Probably most of you already know what a vow of poverty is that you will gain no material wealth, that you will hold no material wealth. And then you wonder why your entire life, for many incarnations after that, you struggle to make money. You struggle to end up with, to thrive. That could equally be the same. We have vows of wealth where you put wealth above all else, where you have tons of money, all the money the world needs, but you have no joy. That is because you put money first. And when you make a vow of making money for the wrong reasons, you can end up with tons of money, but no joy, or everything else that you want and for ends up taken from you. Vows of suffering are one of the most common that we see. Where people in desperation, there was one person who was losing a child and was in such a panic about losing the child that, she said, I will take on all of your suffering as my own. And that is a vow that you will continue to share from multiple incarnations. There's even vows of celibacy. Where you make a vow that you'll get no nookie. And sure enough, you end up like a 50-year-old virgin and you don't know why. Well, that's a thing. There's also vows of purity, where after having lived, like many would say, a promiscuous lifestyle, instead of being promiscuous, you vow that you'll take a vow of purity, that you'll never go down that path again, that you will always be pure and perfect and pristine after that. That is a vow of purity. Lots of people have taken those. All emotion can end up linking to a vow if you make that vow enough. But that's not even in regards to contracts. That a vow is a contract that you make with yourself. So a contract that we talk about, the contracts are usually either with other people or with entities. So we have karmic contracts, we have ancestral contracts, we have dark contracts, which are basically like selling your soul to the devil kind of thing. It's not a devil. Usually it's a fucking reptilian or some kind of a demonic of some sort. But yeah, there are vows and agreements that you can take with an entity where you are beheld to agreements with that entity. So, I mean, there are many different factors in regards to this, and contracts don't always have to be made directly with an entity. When I went to Edinburgh in Scotland over the summer, and we ended up going on a ghost busting tour and we crossed over 10,000 earthbounds in Edinburgh. But one of the areas that had the most earthbounds was a town square. It was like a large town square. And as I walked through it, I felt really sick. So I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on here. So it's one of the first places we crossed over, and we cleared out of entities and earthbounds. And there were tons of earthbounds and tons of contracts linked to this area. So I asked about it, and you know what they told me? When people were on death row, right, to either be burned at the stake as a witch or to be hung for some sort of a crime like thievery or whatever it is, they used to hang people for every kind of concept you could imagine. When you were waiting on death row to meet the gallows, people would say things like, I will do anything to get out of this. I will do anything for God to save me, right? Lots of people pray like that before they're sent to the gallows. But what if an entity heard you? All you had to do was say something like, I'll do anything for blah, blah, blah. If an entity hears that, they got you. They're like, all right, done. And even though those people were not saved, even though nobody came to rescue them, what they prayed for did not actually happen, they're still beheld to that dark contract. And many of those earthbounds had not crossed over, even though they were killed. Entities, exactly, Carolyn. Entities were gathering there just for that reason, because they knew that people would be making desperate pleas for help. So those desperate pleas were not heard by light beings because it was such a dark, dense, heavy, low vibrational space. They were heard by all the beasties in the area. And the beasties are like, okay, done. Sign on the dotted line. You're mine. And it's terrifying that people can actually end up making agreements when they think they're talking to God and they're not. They're talking to something else. Donna says, can entities read our thoughts? Yes, absolutely. Your thoughts do not exist in your head. You send them out like little signals out into space, like little radio signals. Your thoughts are not private. Nope, they are not. A lot of the soul guides will do their best not to read your thoughts because they respect your privacy. So it's better to talk to your soul guides either out loud or with intentional telepathy. But no, your thoughts are not private. They have never been private. So just be aware, like, this is a good time for you to practice this, by the way, because human telepathy is a real thing, and you can share thoughts between humans. We do it all the time, right, Carolyn? Carolyn and I are synced. Like, we message each other at the same time. We often think the same thoughts. And funnily enough, it's because we work together so much and our brains are kind of on the same broadcast, so to speak. So yes, you can actually kind of read people's minds without even intending to. Emmy had a great question. What are ancestral curses? They are curses on your whole bloodline. Usually they are more of a professional curse if it's going to affect your whole bloodline. There are curses and spells that are so powerful, they will affect everybody in that lineage. Most of the time, it is in regards to some kind of an ancestral thing that you're trying to break. Like alcoholism is the most common, right? We talk about breaking the ancestral curses all the time in regards to breaking bad habits, breaking cycles of abuse. It's a spectrum. You get something from somebody who loves sugar, for example. My family, that is one of our ancestral curses, is a love of sugar. We always have that. My mom and I, my sister, all of us, we all just love the sweet stuff. So this is something that is easier for us to break, and then when you have children of your own, you can kind of train them to not have the same bad habits that you do. Well, it's similar to that, but in a more extreme case, where let's say that your great grandfather was an alcoholic who used to beat his children. So what do the children do? They see their father drinking and beating them. So what do? They end up perpetuating that cycle where they end up being an abusive drunk. And then your father ends up abusive drunk. And then the grandson ends up abusive drunk. And it just keeps going down and down and down the line. So this is why many of us, my chair keeps shrinking. I don't know what's going on with my chair. I need to fix it. It's making me go lower and lower. So when you have somebody in your family, like let's say, for example, you're a starseed, right? And you come to Earth and you are here to help, right? So you don't have the baggage that a lot of Earth seeds have or the veterans have because you're new here. Like I can tell a starseed immediately from checking their report. Why? Because they don't have all the other shit that we have. They don't have vows. They don't have spells and curses. They don't have, if they do have a past life resonance, it'll be something like death from drowning. You know what I mean? Like something kind of like, I don't want to say too vanilla, but if you know what I mean, like most of the cases are they just die an accidental death, or they die of illness, or they die of starvation and poverty because starseeds do not understand how money works. So there's a lot of us who, we come here with an already pretty clean slate. But then if you look at a starseed's ancestral, usually they have ancestral contracts. So it's because you chose that specific bloodline, you chose that family, and there are pros and cons that come from being in a family that is, going through stuff. Sometimes the ancestral things they're going through is something that the starseeds are like, I could deal with that. I could help with that. Like, hey, I see that for the last 5 generations, everybody in this family has been a cigarette smoker. So I'm going to be born into this family with a hatred of smelling cigarettes. And so therefore, I am the one that breaks the cycle, right? So you end up being born into the family as the only non-smoker, and then they look at you like, get out of here. They might look at you like you're annoying because you're trying to get them to give up something that they don't want to give up. But then you end up one of those parents that's like, I'll kill you if I see you smoking cigarettes. Like to your own children, you're like, no, you stay away from those things. You're the one that ends up breaking that cycle. There's a lot of starseeds that are here to do just that. And almost every single one of them, we find ancestral contracts because they are working through those ancestral contracts in regards to helping the family break those cycles. Alcohol and gambling are probably the 2 most common ancestral curses that we tend to find on people. But it can even be the point of just religious. It could be, you could have been born into a really strict Christian family, for example, and that is the cycle that you're breaking. Where for every person that's been born into that family could have been dealing with extreme religious, where they're just cramming a Bible down your throat the whole time. And that in itself is a cycle to end up breaking. I'm one of those people. I ended up going to a born-again Christian academy. I got spanked all the time by my headmaster. Oh, it's one of the reasons why I had a chip on my shoulder in regards to religion from day one of being here on this planet, is because of all of that. So even just having strict religious beliefs can end up being an ancestral curse that you're trying to break. Leslie says, as I sit here smoking. Well, this is the thing. Everybody loves what they love for a reason. And there are going to be problems for every family. Everybody in regards to something. I've yet to meet even one family that is like, oh yeah, everything's great. None of us have any problems. We're all happy. We're all perfect. No, it doesn't work like that, especially here. And in regards to health stuff too, health is a big problem too, because a lot of people end up eating themselves or drinking themselves to death. So what do? You end up basically trying to change that cycle for your family. It's not easy, especially if you've been born with the same vices that they had. So let's just say you're here to help them clear the alcoholism from the family, and yet you love to drink. Well, shit, that's going to be a challenge for you. It's going to be a big challenge. But once you've actually, gotten to that point where you've mastered the challenge, you don't just do it for yourself. You end up doing it for your whole family line. The things that you'd heal in yourself, you end up healing in your family line. We've seen that so many times. And not just in the forward sense, but also in the back sense. Your ancestors are you. In fact, many of the things that you're working to heal, especially if you're an earth seed or a veteran, chances are, if you're trying to heal a certain ancestral curse within your family, you might have been the ancestor that started it in the first place. So now you're here to end the cycle. That's a common one. There's also abusive partners as well, where women will take on an abusive partner. And then their daughters will take on an abusive partner. And then their granddaughters will take on an abusive partner. And then it ends up a perpetuating cycle of subjugation from a partner. And so, you're not only fighting your own issues, but the issues of your bloodline, which end up compiling and making it worse. So there's so many different forms of contracts and vows and agreements and curses and all kinds of stuff that can affect you. So this is why, one of the reasons why I love to learn about my past lives and the context in which, I'm here still working stuff out. That's why I'm making a long list. I have a very long list of all the different incarnations that I know about. And in some of those incarnations, I was a naughty little shit, I must admit. So I'm still repaying some of the karma. I was an assassin in more than 3 lifetimes that I am aware of. Aaron Sineva knows that. I actually killed Aaron in a past life. Sorry, Aaron. Oops. Love you. So this is why I say, you can't beat yourself up for things that you've done in the past. You're a completely different person now. But that doesn't mean that you're not still dealing with some of the traits that you had in past lives. How can we avoid entering into any now? Be careful what you say. Words are spells. Anytime you make a promise, you better be real careful about that promise you're making and what you say when you make a promise to somebody. Whenever you say something in anger, this is why I always say count to 10, walk away, get some fresh air before you start saying things you don't mean. Because, words are spells. Absolutely. You can curse not only other people, but yourself. I have found quite a few people that have cursed themselves. How did they curse themselves? By talking shit about themselves. It could be something as silly as saying, fuck my life. And you can end up cursing yourself if you say it with enough fervor and intention. Absolutely. Can we undo them ourselves? Yes, you can, Carol, by saying it with equally the amount of intention, but the opposite. So you can release all vows. You can release contracts. You can actually write it down on a piece of paper, and then tear up the piece of paper and be like, confetti, If you say it or do some kind of a burn and release ritual with enough intention, with enough conviction behind it, yes, you can clear these things. Chantal says the guy who cursed his phone. Yep. If you look at your phone and you're like, fucking phone, you can talk enough shit to your phone to curse your own phone. One of the most common things we find are cursed mirrors, because people curse themselves in the mirror. They'll look at themselves in the mirror and say something like, oh, I'm so ugly. You're cursing yourself in the mirror. If people only knew, there's a lot of family drama too. Whenever we do clearings on family, we've noticed. And I'll say something to the guys, I'm like, where are all these curses come from? And they're like, from the family. And I'm like, their own family is cursing them? They're like, unintentionally. They don't even notice that they're cursing each other. All because they're talking shit to each other. That's all it takes. So you end up sabotaging not only yourself, but your own family through shit talking. Well, I got a lot of comments popping up. Tina says, what if we know we are here to break ancestral patterns of abuse and worked hard to do it through your children, but then the narcissistic ex, who's full of entities, gained control of your children, brainwashed them, and completely undid all the good you did? Do the patterns continue? That's up to the children. This is part of the test. Granted, yeah, there could be entities that are causing problems. Some people really like their entities. This is why I say it's better for the person to be aware that the clearing is happening. If you were to just clear a narcissistic ex who loves entities, he's not even going to stay sovereign for an hour and you wasted your money. Yeah, you can clear some ancestral contracts for him. You can clear some dark contracts. You can get the monkey off of his back for a few minutes and then see what he's going to do with that newfound freedom. Or if he's just going to give it right back to the entities and say, nah, I like the way my life is. Some people enjoy their attachments. Some people are so insecure, so fearful, and so devoid of being able to make their own decisions that they prefer to have an entity telling them what to do and how to live and the decisions to make and everything. So it's frustrating, I know, when you put in so much time and effort, but the knowledge that you imbued is still there. Sometimes, you know, like our parents will tell us something and be like, you know, don't do this, don't do that. And we're like, I'm going to do this and that all I want because nobody can tell me what to do. So you end up doing it. You end up, I don't know, doing dumb shit, right? And then sure enough, later on, you're like, okay, that was dumb. Now I know why my mom said that. Anybody else learn the hard way? I am definitely one of those people that likes to learn the hard way. People will tell me, hey, don't do that. And I'll be like, why? If you don't give me a good enough reason why, I'm still going to do it. Especially, I'll probably do it right in front of your face with a look of on my face because the people don't. If you tell me what to do, I'm the opposite. I will do the opposite just to spite you. I don't know why I do that. I'm a rebel with a cause, I guess. I don't know. So this is why I say, you know, sometimes people just want to learn the hard way, and you got to give them the opportunity to learn things in whatever capacity they wish to learn it. So you just have to have faith, and you send these people love. Send them love. Anytime that you are dealing with somebody who is exactly like how you've described, Tina, you send them love. That's the best thing you can do. First of all, sending them love bounces off anything that they're trying to send you. So chances are, if you've been feeling this way about somebody, they've been feeling the exact same way, but the opposite. So chances are, you know, you're being sent bad energy from that person. If you send them love, you're blocking that bridge. They're trying to make an emotional bridge where you're both hating each other and fighting on the bridge, right? But if you end up blocking that bridge and saying, no, I'm not going to be that way. I don't care. I'm not giving you any space in my head whatsoever. You know, there's always saying people can, you know, kind of occupy your mind rent free. Exactly like that. If you allow that to happen, then unfortunately, there's going to be more opportunities for them to send you negative energy and to sabotage what you're trying to manifest. So it's very important to just stay positive, send people love. And if you truly believe that somebody is trying to do you harm, visualize yourself in a bubble of light and then put a mirrored shine on that bubble. So completely surround yourself in light, visualize that golden light coming in from source. See that light pouring into all of your chakras, powering up all of your chakras, making sure they're bright and strong. And then visualize that golden bubble completely encircling your etheric field, protecting you closely. And then when you see that golden bubble around your etheric field, visualize a mirrored shine, like a mirror bubble around the outside of that golden bubble. So that way, if anybody sends you anything, it bounces off the mirror and bounces right back to them. So I know it's challenging, especially when you're dealing with an abusive ex or, you know, especially when you have to co-parent and all this other stuff. That is the best thing that you can do, is to send them love and shield yourself with that bubble. Because whenever you rise to the occasion, they're able to affect you on a much deeper degree. That is the whole name of the game. That's why entities use people like that, like narcissists and people who have a very shallow perspective of others, right? The reason they do that is because it's kind of like what they say, forgive them, they know not what they do. They don't. They're completely ignorant. They have no idea that what they're doing is self-sabotage. Because anytime you send out any aggression against another person, you're sending that aggression out to yourself and you're creating karma. So you have to forgive them. You have to bounce it back. And if they still continue, they're going to end up having to work out that karma with somebody else. You've cleared your karma. If you forgive them and you've walked away, you're karma free. You've torn up your karmic contract with this person and threw it in the trash. So you just bounce it off and transmute it with love. Exactly. You don't want to send it back to sender, because when you do that, in a way, you know, like I said, you're sending it back to yourself, because you are them. They are you. We are all a collective for a reason. So, yep, you forgive them, you release it, and you don't let them hold space in your head. You know, you get them out of your head. You don't think about them, because whenever you think about them, whenever you allow emotions to, to control you, you're creating cords with that person. And then when you've got a cord with that person, they're easily able to control your energy. They can manipulate you. They can get sense of how you've been feeling and what you've been doing. So it really messes with your ability to kind of stay independent of their energy when you have these cords. So forgiveness is the most powerful thing that you can express to somebody else, especially if this is somebody that has done you wrong. And the law of attraction is something that not enough people understand. The law of attraction basically states whatever you focus on, you manifest, you attract. So if you're focusing on toxic people, you're only going to attract more toxic people. Anyway, that was my long rant about breaking contracts and vows. I hope that helps. If your vibration isn't high, if things are really a challenge in your life, it does make it a lot easier for you to kind of get back on your feet when you know how to defend yourself against our entities and all other sorts of things. So I will also be doing an astral projection class. We have Reiki 2 coming up. We have a lot of stuff going on. So there's the link for all the courses available. Yes, we are going to switch over to Astara in just a moment. Does anybody else have any other questions for today? In fact, I'm even adding more information. I've got a chat with a guide later on today. That is a plan to get some more information in regards to these things, to kind of update the information as we go, because there's always new information. Right, Yeshua? Yeshua told me that really cool trick the other day about visualizing yourself as a sun. That was a really good one, actually. So I've been using that quite a lot. For those of you who are on our Astara community website, you are more than welcome to join us on Zoom in just a moment, where every Monday we have a one-on-one chat, I should say, with the community, where you can jump on screen if you want, or even just audio if that's what you prefer, to be able to have a conversation with us and ask questions and kind of open up about certain things you're going through privately if you would like to. So if you guys are interested in doing that, you can join us on astaracommunity.com. That is the name of our community that we share, that we have a whole bunch of classes up there and a whole bunch of other information. So if you guys are interested, I highly recommend checking it out. There's the website. I love you guys. I hope you all have a great afternoon, and I will see you soon. Mwah! Bye, everyone.